Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back, right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay. So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now let's get to the episode. All right, cool. Hey, folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Jodie Baulkham. Look at that. Bulkham didn't mess it up. Jodie, listen, so when you introduce somebody, you talk about their accolades and their titles and the letters after their name and all that shit that doesn't matter. This woman, how do I start? So she has turned, like you hear people, they say they pay it forward, and you've got all these buzzwords and phrases. She has turned her pain and life experiences into a guidebook for you, like how you how you live through things that you think you can't live through. And she like walks with you. She wrote a book, Choosing My Tomorrow, Surviving Murder, um, and navigating mental health and harnessing the power of choice, the power of choice. Like you decide. And I could talk about her forever. So instead of me doing that, let's hear from her. Jodie, it's so nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my goodness. So LinkedIn is like an amazing thing. Like without this, without Zoom, without this world of connecting, I don't know about you, you don't know about me. And your story is like, I always ask people like to frame where we're at and where we're going to go, to tell us a little bit about the past. And, you know, we kind of talked about this before. Like, that's not the story with you.
Mhm.
It sets the stage for the gift that you give everyone. And so if you don't mind, just a little bit about you, and we'll walk into the past, and we won't stay there long because I really am super excited about what you're doing in the present.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The subtitle is the summary, so Surviving Murder. 17 years ago, I was living up in the Northwest Territories of Canada. I was married on maternity leave with our 8-month-old daughter. My husband was a constable with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. He got called out one night and was killed on duty. And so in that moment, I went from being a loving housewife who was starting to have her family grow to a widow and an only parent. And so there was the start of a manhunt. The killer wasn't captured for a number of days. And so that started not just my experience with traumatic grief, but also introduction to the world of the Canadian justice system.
Oh,
And yeah,
and I cringe when you say your introduction to the world of the Canadian justice system, because no good can follow that sentence.
no. And any justice system. I know that there are
I
some
was going to say
start
Canada doesn't hasn't cornered the market on being messed up.
No,
Look
it
south,
doesn't.
young lady.
It is much more lenient when it comes to crimes like this and what the systems are, but it's lengthy and it can be all consuming. And so, I stepped into the preliminary inquiry process, and then 2 years later was the full trial, and then he was convicted, and now 15 years, he's applying to get out earlier than he was allowed to. So those types of things have been reoccurring in my life, and I can speak to how I manage that a little bit later on. But
Yeah, no
it's
doubt.
just, yeah, those
It's
types
got
of
the
things.
potential to re-traumatize, re-victimize every time
Yeah,
it comes up.
yeah. So
If 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 you
if you let it,
choose to allow that to happen.
that's right. That's right. And this is one of those things where I could have thrown all of my energy and efforts into trying to change the system, which I thought about doing for a little while. I actually, Chris, when he died, he was out on his own. And so I did call for the RCMP to make changes to their backup policy and having two members in cars and those types of things. So I did put my energy there. But when it comes time to try to lobby the Canadian government in order to change different things, I was like, is that where I want to put my energy?
Mm.
And it wasn't. And so I've learned along the way, you got to let some things go. You can't always change those systems. So
Well,
what can
like
you do
pick your
in
battles.
That's right. Like, what can you do to exist in it? Yes, I'm fiery and yes, I have energy, but where I choose to invest that and how that's going to serve me the best in my present day and in my future, that's where I focus on.
Mm. I think just to kind of drill down on that a little bit. Um, I think some people don't have that awareness, and so what they end up doing is they pick the wrong fight to put their energy into. And although
Mm,
on the surface it makes sense, like there's been an injustice
yeah,
and you are not going to stand for it, but you not standing for it at what cost to you?
absolutely.
Can I be so bold as to say Chris is dead?
Hmm.
So he's the impact on him is there is no more impact on him. The impact is on you in
Yeah,
the decisions that you make moving forward, and that's real.
yeah, yeah. There is a sense of wanting to quickly find a purpose to put your energy into something so that it distracts you from the hurt and the pain.
Mm.
And I think that's where people really start to maybe go down that rabbit hole of staying stuck because they're using it as a distraction instead of actually starting to deal with the hurt and the pain and the loss.
How much of that, Jody, is the feeling of guilt that if I don't become this advocate, then people will look at me like differently, or they won't be supportive of me if I actually find a healthy way to grow from this.
Interesting. And there's a lot. I felt that there was a lot of expectation to honor. There was a full regimental funeral.
Right.
It was in our national capital because that's where Chris was from, and so there was 3,000 members that came from all over
Sure.
North America to participate, and so I was on display,
Mm.
and I knew that, and he died the same weekend as a national election, and there were tough on crime bills that they wanted to
Oh,
pass.
that
So
they
it
wanted
was
you to be the face of that.
they wanted me to be the face of that. And you know what? I did sit in the House of Commons during the throne speech when they were giving all of their policies because I was aware that I was being the face of, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if I ever need to pull a favor, maybe then I can do something too. So it
Real
was
world situational awareness.
right. Yeah. But at the same time, that expectation and that sense of trying to honor the fallen, that stuck with me a little bit maybe longer than I would have liked, but I think that that's something that other people carry with them for a great deal of time.
And and I know that because there's pressures for you to be a certain way from the
Mhm,
outside, and you know
mhm,
that you experienced it firsthand. And I've always like, for being on the outside, like, how dare us?
mm,
How dare us at your mm, at your most vulnerable? We're gonna somehow parlay that as a benefit for our own cause. That's shitty.
mhm.
And we do that all the time.
Under the guises that it's support.
Yes, yeah, yes. Thank
Yes.
you for finishing that. Yes. Under
Yeah.
the guise of support, we're here for you.
Mhm.
Hmm. But we're here for you as long as you toe this line. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's a life changing event, and you get through that. But then, like, I've never talked to somebody about the day after. See, because
Mhm.
Jody, I was a motorman, and so I had the honor of escorting more brothers than I
Mm.
care to remember to their final resting place. That was my thing, to give them that last show of respect and honor. But the next day, it's pretty quiet, man. Um,
Mm.
Everybody goes about their business the next day. Sun comes up, sun goes down, moon, tides continue. Uh, it rains, it doesn't, it snows, it doesn't. People still got to go to get groceries. Uh, Car tires still get flat, and problems don't disappear because you've there's no fill. You haven't gotten your allotment of pain yet. Um, there is no
Mhm.
limit. Uh, how about what's the day after like? And when I mean the day after, metaphorically,
Yeah.
the time after, because I would imagine I've always heard at the ceremony, you know, we're here for you, we're family. And it always bothered me because I don't know that that's the reality of the words that are being said.
Mhm. From an emotional perspective, the days after for me was actually when things started to sink in. In those early days, and you are in charge, or you're making all of these different decisions about the different processes that you're involved in. Sure, you get shortlisted, but you still, of these three options, what do you want? And so you're
Right.
making decisions, and you're not coming to terms yet with what's happened. And
Mm.
so it's in those quieter moments when the pomp has been removed and you're starting to sit with your new reality where there isn't as much activity around you, that you
Right.
actually sit and, shit, this has happened. I
That's
am
when you really
alone.
need support.
That's right. And so for me, I mean, Chris was killed in a northern town. It only had 3,500 people. Alexis and I went back to that community after the big service. And that was amazing. The community, when you're that small, I wasn't the only one impacted. And
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
the support from the community that I received and from the membership as well was still very predominant,
Good.
which was something that maybe folks in larger centers wouldn't experience like I did.
That's that's so, I don't want to say comforting, maybe comforting. It's just nice to hear
Mhm.
that wasn't. I have worked in very large agencies, and I've seen that dynamic where everybody just gets on with their life. I mean, like
Yeah.
we have to, right? But
Yeah.
there's it's a huge void that never gets filled.
Yeah.
And there are promises that are made that aren't ever followed through. And so it sounds like, fortunately for you, between the community and the closeness of the members of the organization with Chris, that it was a supportive time.
That's right. That's right. It was a
Right.
very positive experience. So much so that I would say 2 years later, I end up working as a civilian in the organization. And I would not have wanted to do that if I had not been supported like I was.
Wow. That's every now and then I get shocked. So somebody's doing something right.
Yeah.
Somewhere, right? Um, we don't always get it wrong. And so you navigate that
Mhm.
time in your life. And I'm going to say navigate because,
It's what you do.
yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you don't get through it. You navigate it. You just, um, and you have, like, one of your talking points is, how do you navigate traumatic grief?
Mm.
And, like, and I think you're the perfect person to ask that question to. I know there are a bunch of therapists that think they know how to navigate traumatic grief,
Yeah.
but how did you do it?
Mm. I'd love to say gracefully, but that wasn't always the case.
Not necessary.
No.
Gracefully doesn't have to enter the equation at all.
No, I think I would say the first 4 months after, that was the fog.
Mm,
And it wasn't until I would say 4 months later that I hit my lowest point, because that's when, you have enough time to realize they're not just on vacation.
mm,
You have enough time to realize, you don't need to fill that medical prescription anymore. Or one of my lowest points came, I have a penicillin allergy and I used to wear a medical alert bracelet. And I had taken it off because Chris was always with me. We were always together. And I found that in my bedside table and I was like, I need to wear this. I
mm,
am utterly alone. Alexis is too small. I live in this house, with no other adult. When I go out, I don't have a voice for me anymore. And
mm,
so those kind of realizations. And then Alexis is starting to crawl and she's starting to walk. And then those milestones are being missed. And so it was in those moments that I really had my lowest point. And then from there, I kind of had a talk with myself about focusing on her and being the best mom that I could be, because I didn't want my pain to transfer onto her. She's a happy kid. She doesn't know her life has changed, and I want to keep
right.
it that way for as long as I can. And so, that mindset shift, that focusing on the what, I talk about finding something that gives you purpose. For me, Alexis was that purpose. And then being vulnerable enough to accept help when I needed it.
Mm.
And that wasn't something that was easy for me at the beginning. Sure, people are going to show up with food and cards, but that's different. Like,
That's not help.
that's not.
That's awkward support. I guess that's
Yeah,
awkwardness wrapped in support, wrapped in, I don't know what else to do, so I'll bake you something.
that's right. That's right. And so for me to just let people into the house just because I needed someone else there, but
Mm,
them knowing that they didn't need to fill the space
mm.
with words, like just sit. I don't want to talk.
Say
I
that
just want to
again.
have you here.
Say that again, because I think everybody is so freaked out over, what do I say?
Oh,
Say
yes.
that again, what you just said, what you needed.
I What I needed was just them to be there and not fill the space or the silence with words.
That's powerful. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that keeps us from engaging, is like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Just be there.
Just
Just be
be there.
present.
Mhm.
That's that's important. And I think that's overlooked. Like, you don't have to say anything. Um, your presence is that's what's required. So sometimes
Yeah.
when we don't know what to say, we don't engage, right? Like, we don't
Mhm.
stop by. We don't. call, we don't sit, we don't, and we know somebody's in pain, but we walk by them because we're afraid
We're afraid.
that we won't have the words. And you're telling me you don't need words.
You don't need the words, you just need to show up and
Mm.
continue showing up, not just in the first 3 weeks.
Right, right, right,
Keep
right.
coming or keep coming around after. Yeah.
That's so important. I we're solving problems, kid. We're giving the listener, because like I've been there. I've been that person who just, the fuck do I say?
Mhm.
What do I say? And the fact that I don't think I have anything to say, I miss the point of what's needed. You don't need to hear anything. You just want somebody to be there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that why, having your daughter, let's, can I do like a what if?
Sure.
You didn't see this coming. I didn't either. I just thought of it. I apologize. Um, like I get like, you can smack me around if I get this wrong. I'm a big boy. I get your daughter being your why. That makes perfect sense to me. That's
Yeah.
like, that's, I don't want to say that's easy, but like it's right in front of you. Like, this kid's, it's a little baby. Like, you got
Mhm.
to get your shit together, lady. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a kid you got to take care of. And I'm not saying that, Jodie, to minimize anything at all. I'm not. What about the person that doesn't have that, I'm going to say, obvious
Mhm.
why and responsibility, even though it might have not have been obvious in the fog, but eventually the fog cleared and you were like, I got a kid here,
Yeah.
that I have to do right by.
Mhm.
What if I don't have something that obvious, Jodie? What, like, I
Yeah.
know, I know, just I know.
It's a tough one and one that I've been asked a lot, and I haven't landed on an answer that I love. So in this moment, I'll just see what comes out.
Okay.
I would say people who have a strong sense of self before the incident occurs
Yeah.
are better able to find their what and their why after they lose their person. And with my coaching clients, what I find is that when they don't have a strong sense of self, it's the process of trying to figure out who you are, what is your identity without that other person, and detaching it so that you can focus now. What do you value? What do you want? And when you start asking questions on what do you want, and they're things that you can actually accomplish, not going back, I want my person back, I want this, no, like
Understood. Understood.
always
Yes.
focus forward. What do you want? And are you able to give yourself permission to have different dreams and desires than what you did when your person was alive? And that's where some people are not able to make that step forward. They're not able to dream anymore. And so helping to guide them in that process is what I do now in my day job, because it's so hard for people to allow themselves to envision a future that's different than they thought it was going to be.
You just listen. That's your answer.
That's my
That's,
answer.
are you kidding me? Um, that that is the answer. That is the answer. The answer is that precisely. Um, and I would imagine the vast majority of the people that are in grief, that's what they struggle with, because so
Yeah,
much of what they were was wrapped up in what they lost.
absolutely.
And so it gets back to like you having to know you. And that's a whole process if you don't know who that
Hmm.
person is. And so it's impossible for you to have a why if you don't even know who you are.
Absolutely. And that's why for healing, the aspect of personal growth, self awareness, and growth mindset are foundational because you can't move forward unless you've got those things in place.
And these are all things that you walk with and coach clients on, and provide them the skill sets that may be lacking or that need some refining, right? Because I think we all have the ability, right? It was just we don't know
Yeah.
what we don't know.
Yeah. And to have someone asking you questions that make you ponder and think. I think that's where my superpower is when it comes to encouraging people to self-reflect.
That is, you know, I love those skill sets. I have a tendency to tell people.
Mhm.
I don't. I know I'm supposed to ask you questions to bring out so you come to the best. So you come to the realization. I know that as a coach, right? God damn it, man. That's gonna take a lot. That's gonna take a while. I don't have time for this bullshit.
Mhm.
Hey,
Mhm.
let's do this. Let's give this a shot. And I know it's counterproductive, and I kid a little bit. Um, but yeah, being able to ask the right question. So
At the
somebody,
right time.
yeah, no, good call at the right
Yeah.
time. At the right time. That's awesome. Um, Thank you for sharing that. That was that's your answer. Don't search for it anymore.
Okay.
Listen, that was perfect. And it wasn't bullshit. It was it was spot on. And it underlines, I think, the complexities of these situations that
Mhm.
there there is no one size. There are so many different variables.
Yes. Yeah. Of what I have learned, like grief is so complex and it is so individualized.
Yeah.
And so what I also learned is not to compare my grief or where I'm at in my healing with others. And that is something, if I could give any person who's acutely going through this right now, it
Yeah.
is that do not compare yourself. You may be moving, you are moving at the pace that serves you best. And that pace, looking at Chris's family, looking at my family, me, all of them were different. But in order to do what you need to do and focus inward and do what serves you, it doesn't matter what other people are doing.
And I can see somebody saying, I hear you, Jody. I know I should be doing it. Like it's like a lot of things. Once you say it, it's obvious. But the doing part, right? The doing part of not comparing where we each are relative to the other person.
Mhm.
Easier said than done, but that's perfect advice. That's perfect advice. Um, in an attempt to segue, and uh, holy smokes, like I'm doing the exact opposite thing that I told you I wanted to do, which was stay here because I
Mm.
just we're moving on right now. But can I tell you thank you for that? Because I've never been able to ask anybody those questions. I just haven't. And
Mhm.
the answers that I think people need to hear, like, like not having an answer to that keeps people stuck.
Mhm.
I think we unstuck some people today, or at a minimum, had just given them a different perspective or a different lens to look through when, and it doesn't have to be something as tragic as the loss of a spot, right? I mean,
Yeah,
can we
yeah.
reframe
Yes, sure.
and so the same skill sets you're talking about in dealing with traumatic grief can be applied across the board, can they not? I mean,
Absolutely, and I think where we're gonna get to the second half of my story, I applied these same things, what I learned, in order to support my new husband in his mental health struggles. If I had not experienced all of the things I did overcoming traumatic grief through the murder of my husband, I would not be able to support my husband of now almost 13 years,
Right.
also police officer who medically retired after operational stress injuries.
So, and I'm glad. Thank you for walking us out of that. I'm like, you son of a bitch, John. You did the exact opposite thing you told Jody you weren't going to do. But I think that it's still foundational. Like what,
Yeah.
like, and so your current husband he struggles with PTS,
Yeah.
and it's it's a different situation. But just like you said, the skill set that you acquired and that you learned you're currently utilizing, you're sharing with the whole household
Hmm.
on how, again, we navigate. We don't have
Supporting.
2.3 kids, white picket fence. It's we have
Yeah.
life, and so we can navigate it, we can embrace it, we can face it head on, or we can detach and
Hmm.
spiral
Hmm.
and not be part of the solution but be part of the problem. And so in that journey, in this journey, talk to me about, and I'm not measuring my words because you're obviously a tough cookie. I was going to say tough broad, but that might not, that might be sexist. I don't want to say that. You obviously um have you ever, what do you do? All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
He's like, you're like, I knew I should not have sat down with John. Bamboozled me. What do you do? We hear about compassion fatigue.
Mm.
Hey, kid, um, what do you do? I know what you do for others, right? I know what you do for others. And when you're not doing it for the members of your family, you are doing it for complete strangers initially, and then you're bringing them into your work family,
Hmm.
and they're not coming to you with I had an amazing day today, everything was awesome, let me tell you the story about love, hope, and the success that I'm having in my relationship. And so my question to you, Jody, is what do you do for you to keep you right, to keep you
Mm.
mentally healthy? Because it's a real thing. Listen,
Yeah.
there's only so much in your cup, hon.
Hmm.
And so it's being depleted every day, to a greater or lesser extent, depending on the engagement that you're having with somebody. So how do you stay right?
I appreciate that question. And because for a long time, I didn't put myself first.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened for a number of years. But if I could rewind a little bit, not only does Brent live with post traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, but our daughter Alexis lives with obsessive compulsive disorder. So I have my husband and my daughter both struggling with these things. And she's 17 now. When she was 9, she came in and said, "Mama, I can't control my equals." And that she has balancing obsessive compulsive disorder. I was managing at work and at home with, I say, just Brent's issues. But when my baby came and said she was struggling, that was next level. And that's when I really started to engage with therapy and coaching. I had I had went to therapists in the acute stages of after Chris died.
Yes.
Um, and I have a science degree and an education degree, and so those two things together, I threw myself into research on physiological responses to stress and all of those things. But it wasn't until I realized through my therapy, after Alexis came to me, my therapist's name was June. She helped transform my life because I, at that point, realized that I thought my superpower was project management. And really, I just was a control freak. I was
Mm,
trying to control everything outside of me in order to create the best environment for the people that I was around. And so that was an active distraction to actually go inward. And so I was ignoring my feelings and I was ignoring all of what was going on inside of me because, under the guise, as I say that again, of helping and supporting other people.
mm,
And so June introduced me to the work of Brené Brown.
yeah.
And through that, Rise Stronger was my homework for many weeks. I had to read that book and do the lessons in there. But that started the process of me letting go
Mm.
of things. And why that is so important, it also taught me to stop taking things personally, like the actions of like the outcomes that Brent and Alexis had because of their choices had nothing to do with me,
And
but I
can I
used to think
interject?
it did. Yeah.
Letting go doesn't mean not caring,
Oh, absolutely
right? So
not.
I think sometimes we
Okay.
people get that confused, right?
No, it was like the more I was able to let go and detach myself from the outcomes of the people that I was caring for and loving, I started to love myself more. And that was transformative. When I started to realize and care more about how I was showing up in the world, then I could be a better support. Then their journey was theirs. I was on mine. I helped support, but I stopped enabling.
Yes. So my daughter, she's 29. She is my world to a fault.
Mm,
This I know. Figured some things out. And I've been able to be at peace with that's her decision.
mm,
I will support different than enable.
yep.
And I love unconditionally, but that doesn't mean that I have to share the pain of her decisions.
Mm.
Does that does any of
It
that make sense?
it really, really does. It really does.
I didn't know how to do that before, and I would be consumed in somebody else's pain.
Mm.
It had nothing to do with me.
the um the journey that they're on, one of my girlfriends said, if you continue to interject and you continue to give your opinion, she's like, you are taking away their lessons that they need to learn in order to move forward in their life.
Mm,
And that really struck me because I'm all about growth and learning. So
right.
they're not going to learn what they need to know if I try to control everything that's going on in their life.
I have done that for the majority of my adult life with her,
Mm,
to the point where when she went to school, she went away. I experienced my first real panic attack. I mean, I thought I was having a heart attack.
yeah.
I slept with a nightlight on because the night horrified me. Um, I created that situation,
Hmm.
and, and it just you just go, man, and I, you don't know what you don't know, and it's only, I think what you're doing now. I don't want to say a shortcut, but you are helping people get to the place that they need to be faster than they would just doing this trial and error thing. Because this trial and error thing's a bitch, man.
It really is. Yes. Both of us, if we can offer the shortcut to people, absolutely, please take it.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to learn it all on your
We
own.
don't all have to touch the stove to know it's hot, right?
No,
Like take Jody's
Absolutely.
word for it. Take my word for it.
Yeah.
So that's I'm so happy that you had that epiphany, if you will. Like,
Mhm.
I can't, and that's you taking care of you has to be daily. Like you
Yes.
can't bottle it up and store it all week and say, well, you know what, Saturday will be the day I take care of me, and it's an ongoing initiative, right?
Agreed. Yes. And so, yeah, when you have the epiphanies, then it's like, okay, how can I support myself every day?
Right.
Right. And so, what that looks like for me right now, I get up early in the morning. I started this routine about a year ago when I started writing my book. I started to get up at quarter after 5. I would do my exercise and then I would write until 7 a.m. And then I would get up and do the lunches and do the breakfast
Yeah,
and
the
get the
house the
family
house is
going.
getting up.
That's right.
You've already had almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours of creative time and self-care.
That's right. And then I can go about my work day. And then, I have really stepped into gratitude. Before I even get out of bed in the morning, I thank 3 things. I identify 3 things before my feet hit the floor. And that I've just started to do in the last 4 months. And it starts my day off
Jody,
incredibly well.
right?
Yeah.
I get up. I have a bull mastiff, and so he and I are up before anybody in the house. So I take care of him, and then we go for a walk.
Hmm.
And if anybody ever sneaks up behind me, they're gonna get an earful because I just talk out loud, and I start off, and it's not always the same, but I always start with the 3 things that I'm most grateful for, which is waking up next to Nicole, because that wasn't
Hmm.
always a guarantee. My daughter living with me still, that wasn't always the case, and the love and support. Both of my parents are passed, but my in-laws still like my mom and dad, and
Hmm.
and and the having their love and support, and then everything else after that is, friends, family, health, but and that what it just puts me in the right frame of mind,
For sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if I acknowledge that first thing, I mean, you do it before you get
Hmm.
out of bed. Um, the day can be challenging, but it's in perspective, no?
Yeah. And then I schedule resets throughout my day, whether it
Talk
is
to me.
breath
Talk to
work.
me. What okay.
So breath work, doing the large inhales, just take like filling my lungs and my diaphragm. And so I no longer wear an Apple Watch. I used to use the timer on the Apple Watch, but I actually found it very distracting with the texts coming in and it would interfere with what I was doing.
Oh,
And then I just didn't like the distractions. And so for my well-being, I took it off and I haven't put
okay.
it on since. But I know that other people use them, but use the breath alert that is on your watch to help remind you to just take a minute.
Hmm.
So I do that, and then I try to get out in nature as much as I can. Even if I can't go for a big walk, I stand outside and just breathe in that fresh air.
Which you just got back from an amazing, like, I don't want to say a hike because that kind of minimize you, like you're like in the mountains, right?
I
I
climbed a
mean,
mountain, but
yeah,
yes.
I climbed the mountain. John said, yeah, I went for a little hike. No, I climbed the friggin' mountain. Nice. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that connection with nature, right? Like, kind of,
It's
it's
something
what is
I
it?
was yeah, like, I sat there and the mountains are towering over me and these trees are, 100 feet tall, and I'm just like, I love feeling small.
You
I
mean you're not the
love
center of the universe?
and you need to be reminded sometimes.
Yeah.
You get so wrapped up in all of the things
Mm.
and they get bigger and they get bigger and they get bigger. And so just to feel like you are a part of something that is greater than yourself, I find just helps reset.
I there are no street lights where I'm at. And so at night I'll go outside and I'll look up at that pitch black sky at the
Mhm.
stars. And like it sounds goofy, but I just like I have a moment like, and that's when I breathe.
Mm,
And it's just it's like this little reset that I do in 5 minutes that, yeah, it reminds me like of everything that I don't know and everything that I want to know all at the same time. It's really cool. I I love that. We're in Florida, so the chance of me, I get a hill, a gradual sloping hill at best, but um, I love going to the beach and just looking up at the night sky.
yeah, yeah, and walking on the sand in bare feet, I mean, just that grounding and then the sound of the water coming in. I mean, someone who doesn't have exposure to that, has to pay a lot of money, go to tropical holidays to access warm water and beaches. That's
Yeah,
something too that I so appreciate when I'm
yeah,
able to spend time in those places.
and that's I guess not that we're going to segue into this, but I think there's beauty all around us, and we just have to be intentional about recognizing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And finding joy in those simple moments. Our backyard is full of bird feeders. I used to think just bird watching was for old people, but I'm just like the amount of joy and the resets that watching birds eat or bathe in the little fountain, like
Yeah.
so much pleasure. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wouldn't even, I mean, so we, Nicole had me put a bird feeder out back, but the deer got to it. It wasn't high enough. So I was like, all right, we'll just put some deer feeder out there. What do you want to watch? Birds or deer? I mean, make up your mind, lady. Oh my God. So thank you for sharing those things, your routine, because I think so often people that are out in a space of caring, I've got my own theories about, why we're here. You know, initially, I think initially it's unhealthy why we're here because as long as we stay busy fixing other people, we don't have to deal with our own shit. Like
Hmm.
that's the entry level analysis. But I think once we get here and we're surrounded by people like yourself who show us how to transform and care about ourselves, then that magic happens. And then you really can be here for all the right reasons. It's not a
Hmm.
diversion or an escape from dealing with you. You're dealing with you on a constant daily basis and you're good with it. And that allows you, I think, to show up to truly be like a mental health advocate, right? For everybody that you
Hmm.
come across. It's
Yeah, and I think, it's encouraging myself, my family, and those I come in contact with that acknowledging your emotions is so important, right? And which is why you said, you don't distract yourself all the time. No, like you need to acknowledge the shitty days. You need to acknowledge the good days. The mediocre ones, and ask yourself, not necessarily why you're feeling like that, but if it's something that you're not enjoying, ask the question, what do I want to do to change it?
mm,
And that's
it,
where I
mm,
found myself being able to move a little quicker through some of the processes than others is that forward momentum and always asking myself the what do I want now? This is what it is. What can I do to change it?
mm. And so I'm going to let you know what my superpower is.
Mm,
And I've become really good at it. And it's the serenity prayer.
okay.
I embrace that. And I have this ability, like not always in the past. In the past, I was a victim of not following this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I would consume Jody myself with things that were not only beyond my control. Um, there was no way for me to impact that which I was lamenting over, right?
Yeah.
The second part of that prayer, the courage to change the things that I can. Um, I embrace that.
Hmm.
I embrace that. And I run with that. Um, and obviously the wisdom to know the difference, that's the key to all of it. And that I think allows me to put my energies and efforts and direct them to something that actually gives me a return on that investment, an ROI. Um, and my wife, she's like, damn you and she's just like, I'm like, baby, she's like, why aren't you losing your mind over this situation? I've already run that serenity prayer loop in my mind, and I know that it's something that's beyond my control, so I'm not going to let it occupy any space.
Yeah.
What I am going to do is look for the thing, right? Look for the thing in this situation that I do have control over, and I'm going to act on that aggressively.
Hmm. Love that.
I think it simplifies things for us.
Hmm.
Like too often, for whatever reason, if we don't simplify, if we don't have a mechanism to simplify, then the enormity, the gravity, the complexity of the situation keeps us from taking action,
Hmm.
I think. And so I like things simple. I'm a simple man, you know, and if I can get to the simplicity of the situation, what do I need to do now?
Yeah.
It's served me well.
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm 57 years old. Like I just started figuring this out not too long ago. So, better late than never, I imagine. I got a question for you, kid. And I think I wanna kind of wrap up with this. And if I think if you find it in your heart in your calendar to maybe do a part two or sit down at a later date, I love talking with you, Jody. Um, how can hope save a life?
Oh,
Talk about hope, because I think that a lot of people walking around without it.
yeah. I will tell you how it first came into my life and then how I've built on it. So, after Chris's funeral, I was making my way back up north and I had to stop at a headquarters building and start to sign all of the paperwork. After I did that, the team had arranged a visit for me with another RCMP widow. Her husband had been one of 4 that were killed in the same incident. At the time, she had a 2-year-old and she was pregnant with her 2nd child
Mm,
when her husband died. And so Kim came into the mess and she was carrying a box and she just put the box down and we sat there. And going back to just having someone be with you,
mm,
it really wasn't what she said, it was what she didn't have to say because we had this shared experience. And
mm,
she waited for me to lead the conversation. And I asked what the box was for, and she's like, "Oh, you're gonna get a lot of mail. This is somewhere that you can put it."
sure.
And so it was just in that moment, I'm like, okay, she is 2.5 years ahead of me where I am right now.
Mm,
If she can do it, I can do it. And so that was 15 days post incident. And I would think of her often as I was like on the days where things were hard. I'm like, well, if Kim can do it, I can do it. And so it's the story that I was able to tell myself after having this encounter with someone who had done the exact same thing that I had done. And so now, as I've written the book and I'm getting on stages to speak, that is what I'm offering people, is to share their stories and the importance of storytelling, showing vulnerability, which, as Brené Brown says, vulnerability equals courage. And when you talk about embracing that second part of the serenity pair and having the courage to do those things, I can tell through your speeches, you're vulnerable and you're able to show that to people. And that's what's going to change how people receive the information that you're sharing with them. If they can see that you've survived all of these different things, then they can too.
Mm.
And so sharing your story, knowing that your story is important, someone will relate to it, it will resonate, and you're probably making more of a difference talking about it than you'll ever know.
That's how hope can save a life. That's a gift we give each other, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Jodie, if my listeners, they want to connect with you, they want to follow you. I know your book's on Amazon. Um, put out some of that information for us, if you will. I'm going to put it all in the show notes, but I want to make sure if they're listening right now, they can take note. How
Sure.
do we get in
So
touch with you?
I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at my name. So that's JodieBaulkham. My website is the same, www.jodiebaulkham.com. What I want to impress there, so I have a teaching and I'm a educational design specialist by day. And so I have created a 5-day mental health mini course that is available on my website for free so that people can start to build the habits that I employ on a daily basis and start putting those things into their routines. And so please, visit, pick that up, start using it in your day. The lessons learned from my book are also on the website, free download. I really want people to know that they can get through the hard things, and that there are people out there that are doing things for them to learn their lessons a little bit sooner. So access those things. Yeah, happy for them to reach out. Info@Jodie Baulkham if you want to send me an email.
And I'll put all that information in the show notes so they can click on that. Listen, a
Yeah.
5-day mental health, a little mini course, which just go to your website, right?
Yeah.
Get the course and be a better version of you for it. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, Jodie Baulkham. Jodie, listen, thank you so much for your time. Like, it's super valuable, and I appreciate you sharing this last hour with us. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm excited that we've got this connection. I'd love to have you back for a part 2. And I just so admire and respect how you've turned these life challenges. Like, you're not just winning, like you're using these challenges throughout your life to help other people thrive. Not just like not survive, but like to thrive after going through some, tough, dark, challenging times. Um, Not everybody can do that, and you do that exceptionally well. And I just appreciate you for that.
No, thank you so much. I look forward to coming back.
Can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, Jodie Baulkham, thank you so much, hon.
Thank you.
And that is that, kid.